Welcome to the Birdman Dynasty Show on this NFL Championship Sunday evening with your host, Chris Lemke, the Birdman. Now, I do want to say that I'm rather disappointed this evening. The two teams that I had hoped would get to the Super Bowl both lost. But what are you going to do? We'll figure it out in a couple weeks, and I end up rooting for somebody. It's inevitable every year. So, before I get to the Dynasty talk, I do want to get into my opinion on Dan Campbell this evening because, first of all, for all you Lions fans, you know out there that you wouldn't have been there this far tonight without Dan Campbell and his mentality. Now, plenty of people are arguing he should have kicked the field goal late in the game. He didn't. Personally, I want to say he should have gone for it on 4th and goal right before the half if he was going to go for it later in the game as well. But that's just my opinion. You can argue with me into the chat after you watch the video. That's fine. I just say if that's your mentality, you go for it both times. That's all. Now, again, I'm disappointed for the Lions fans. I've been there before as a Bucs fan, losing in a championship game, and I'm telling you, never know if you'll get back. But I don't want to scare you Lions fans out there. Keep pulling for your guys. And I will say, too, that even though I didn't want the Niners in there, I'm happy for CMC. I mean, the guy went basically from nothing about a year and a half ago in Carolina to living the dream right now in Northern California. So I am happy for CMC. I mean, he went from the worst situation to the top situation. Kind of like my kid's basketball game this weekend in its tournament. The second game went from just dominating, and they were so great. Easily the best game of the year. All 8 kids scored. It was phenomenal. To the third game, which was the worst game of the season. Anyway, let's get to the Dynasty talk. All right, we're going to do a trade show tonight. Been waiting to do it, putting together a few trades myself, and I just want to share with you some of the trades that have happened in the leagues I'm in. So, we're going to kick things off with my favorite league that I am a part of. It's just a great pleasure to be in it, and that is Dynastyland. Dynastyland is a 12-team, start 9, Superflex, half-point tight end premium. And one of my huge competitors in that league, Hergot, was part of this first deal. Hergot is a huge Lions fan, so I know he is already not feeling great. And now I have to share with him my thoughts on his trade here. His trade was pretty polarizing considering Trevor Lawrence was in the deal. It went to Fantasy Godzilla, that's Trevor Lawrence, and Hergot received back the 108 and a 26 first. 108 and 26 first for Trevor Lawrence. I just personally I don't see that being enough for T-Law in this case. I know he had a down year. I know the landscape is pretty polarized over him right now. I can see both ends of it, definitely, with Trevor Lawrence. He had a great 2022 season. Looked like he was on the up and up. And, last year in startups, he was going the top 8 picks, I'd say. 7 or 8 picks. He was right there with Herbert just after Burrow. And things were looking great for him. Calvin Ridley was coming into the mix. He had a nice young back in ETN, who did have a great season. The Jaguars' offense was looking to be doing things. Fortunately, this year, he fell victim to some injuries. That is one of the main reasons I don't see him as much of a sell as others. And in fact, if I can buy him for that, the 108 and a 26 first, I would definitely be on board with that. So, Hergot, I don't think you have any other Trevor Lawrence shares in any of the leagues I'm also in with you, but that's unfortunate. However, I do have to give you a... Okay, we won't laugh that hard at you. We'll just do this. Fantasy Godzilla, on the other hand, I think you're a big winner in this one. It helped fit your need at quarterback. You just had you had Goff, and trying to think who else you had in that league, but Trevor Lawrence and Goff going into next year should be a great tandem to have, and I think T-Law is going to, be bounce back next year. I don't know that he would be a candidate necessarily for comeback player of the year, but they could give him some votes, I guess. Hergot, the 108 in this deal just is kind of below my thoughts of where the draft first tier goes, first or second tier, however you want to do it with the draft picks. Right now I see about 7 players that are in this upper echelon for sure. That's the 3 quarterbacks of Caleb, May, and Jalen Daniels. 3 receivers, Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, and Rome Odunze. And then the 7th would be Brock Bowers, the great tight end prospect. So those 7 occupy the first tier for me. After that, you get a big mishmash of Mike Penix, Bo Nix, and J.J. McCarthy, along with about 4 or 5 receivers. So it's pretty jumbled up there right now. And I'm sure there'll be somebody from that group that gets better draft capital than expected and lands in a good spot, and we'll probably be saying that the 108 is a great pick to have in 3 months or so. But it depends on when you draft. Most leagues that I'm in, they do draft in May, so it'll be a busy month for me. So we can move on from that deal. I think I made my point clear. There was another deal in Dynasty Land that I did want to mention. It's a little smaller deal, but those sometimes end up being the big ones. This one was just a 1-for-1. NLS 2K received the 205, and in return to break yourself, he had to give up Javonte Williams. Now, Javonte Williams, ironically, NLS 2K loves this guy, and basically he's just given up on him, I'd say. But the 205, I can understand it if you think you're going to be able to use it to package in with something else. I wouldn't be using the 205 this year to draft a 1-for-1 replacement for Javonte Williams. I don't think that the running back class, it definitely doesn't have somebody as talented as Javonte Williams, and definitely not somebody that will get any more volume than Javonte Williams should get next year in Denver. Now, could there be a Devon A-Chain type that steps up? Maybe James Cook. James Cook was going a little earlier than the 205 in that year, but I think you get my point. It's that I would use the 205 as a bargaining chip to help you upgrade, whether it's packaging that 205 along with a first you might have to get an upper echelon player, or using the second and third rounders you got to grab somebody a little more in between, in the middle range, if that's what you want to do. So again, and maybe you won't even have that 205 then when it comes to draft time, and you won't have to worry about trying to decide if you're going to pick running back there or not. So after the Dynasty Land trades we've got there, I'm going to move on to the bottom line league that I'm in. And this first trade involved Fantasy Godzilla again. And I'm actually a co-owner with Fantasy Godzilla in this one. And we decided to do a deal with a new team, a guy that took over an orphan team right after the season. And this guy took over the team and knew he had to do something. He had no draft capital, at least for this year, and he had 4 or 5 good solid vets on the team. Knew he needed to make some moves to go in that direction. And so right away we were able to pull the trigger on a deal that we had been trying to get done with the whole season. We received Travis Kelce and gave Scoopidopoulos our 111 pick that we had. Along with Kelce, we also got the 303. There's a little toss in there. The main thing I just want to say is, well, if you watch the game today, I don't think Mr. Kelce's washed. Okay, say what you want about him with Taylor Swift and whatever, but I seriously doubt he'll retire after this year. I can see Kelce going on to have a Tony Gonzalez type longevity in the league. So I talked about Kelce enough a week or two ago, so I think you know what my thoughts are on him, and I have no problem retiring him and letting him go out to pasture on my rosters. Next trade from the Bottom Line League, we had King Dong receiving Mike Evans and James Conner from Scoopidopoulos for Terry McLaurin, the 309, and a 26 first. So, gave up Evans and Conner, received McLaurin, 26 first, and the 309. Now, this deal, I know that King Dong was competing this year. I just feel it might have been early to try and pull a trade like this. This is more of a deal you make mid-season for your last push. We have no idea where Mike Evans actually will be next year. I certainly hope it will be down in Tampa, but I don't know that he'll be there for sure. He's a true free agent, so the Bucs are going to have to make some maneuvering to make sure he's back with Baker to try and continue the nice connection they've made. James Conner looked good this year, but who's to say that the Cardinals don't draft a running back in the second or third round? I mean, Conner's 29 right now, so I'm pretty sure they know that DeMarcado isn't the permanent replacement. So I could see the Cardinals definitely drafting a running back in the second or third round. Scoopidopoulos getting the 26 first along with Terry McLaurin. I mean, McLaurin and Evans pretty much cancel each other out in this deal, so you're giving up, or if you want to throw in the 309 with McLaurin for Evans, I'd say that's probably where it'd be more close. But James Conner for the 26 first, if it was 26 second, I'd be absolutely fine with it. All right. But here's the thing, King Dong. In this case, you're giving up assets 2 years out into the future while you're buying these two guys that may not even be playing then. So your window is small because I know the rest of your roster, and you gave up a pick that you're gonna likely need to get back, whether it's after this season or the following season, probably at some point in 25, you're going to be trying to trade back for that pick. Quite possibly. Just knowing your team's window with a competitive but old team. That's my opinion. I'm going to give the applause to Scoopidopoulos, and I don't know, because Scoopidopoulos right after that was able to grab your 25-second and 26-second then King Dong, and you got McLaurin back. So let's see here. What the deal ended up being: Mike Evans and James Conner for 26 first and second and your 25 second. Honestly, that just seems like almost a first's worth more than what you should have had to do. And in the end, I mean, was this your best use of that 26 first? Like, would that deal not be available at some point next season, and your 26 first would look juicier to the competition at that point, so you might be able to get something more than Mike Evans and James Conner? So I just don't know that was the best use of that pick. Moving along, next league I've got is a 3-1-4-3 league, and in this one, right after the season was over, I was able to pull off this deal where I got Drake London and Chris Godwin, along with a 25-second and 26-third, and I did this deal with Fossboss. Fossboss received in return Austin Eckler, Elijah Moore, Isaiah Spiller, the 206, 209, and a 26 fourth. So, if you eliminate the picks, because we got the 206 and 209 on one side, we have the 25 second, 26 third. I guess to make it more even, we'll just eliminate the 25 second and 209, and then the 26 third and 26 fourth. So, and Isaiah Spiller, I mean, that was a toss-in just because of Eckler. So if we want to say it's the 206 Elijah Moore and Eckler for Drake London and Chris Godwin. Now, I don't know where you are at with Drake London. I know he's a pretty polarizing guy himself. There's both ends of it. But in my opinion, it has nothing to do with Drake London himself, the talent that's there with Drake London. So the situation could only get better for him, not any worse. All right? No matter who they bring in at quarterback, I don't know that it could possibly be any worse than it was with Ritter and Heineke this past season in Atlanta, throwing the ball wise. They threw the ball less than anybody in the last 20 years, okay? So I just don't know how it could get any worse for the guy. So I'm buying into London wherever I can right now. I think that they either go the free agent route or move up from their spot at with the 8th pick that they have in the upcoming NFL draft, or even possibly they're able to just stand pat at the 8th pick and grab a quarterback, whether it's Jaden Daniels slides or Michael Penix shows more and he slides up the board. I've even heard J.J. McCarthy possibly going that high. There's a lot of things that can happen. We still have the Combine to come. We still have a couple months after the Combine before the actual draft. It's a ways away yet, all right? So that's why I caution you to be too giving with your picks right now. I did give up the 206 and 209, but traditionally those are picks that are really dart throws, as good as prospects look. Once you get into that middle, I mean, once you get into the second round, it really is a 50-50 proposition, whether they're going to be anything or they're going to be something. I mean, just look at Kendre Miller versus Devon Achane this year. Pretty much had an expectation level even, and they were polar opposites as far as what they actually produced last season. All right, so that's just one example at the running back position of second round picks and how close they can be projected yet how far away they end up with results. Now, moving along, we've got a deal in the same 3143 league, which is a 10-team Superflex half-point tight end premium start 10 league. This deal was Wisconsin dealing with Foss again. This deal had Jordan Love, Musgrave, and Jaden Reed, as well as the 25 first and 26 first that Foss had. He, in return, had to give up the 102, 302, Kirk Cousins, and Breece Hall. So there's a lot to unpackage here in this deal. I'm going to take Musgrave out of it and the 403 because they're more filler, and I'll get rid of the 302 on the other side because I'd say that about evens out. So then you got Jordan Love, Jaden Reed, and 2 future firsts for Cousins, Breece Hall, and the 102. I guess it just comes down to knowing your league and what the value actually is of the 102. I mean, in this case, I would be saying Jordan Love versus the 102 is actually a pretty decent comparison right now. I know that Caleb Williams and or Drake May or even Daniels, they will probably start in value higher than Jordan Love immediately upon getting picked, but they haven't shown anything yet. Jordan Love's shown a whole season of just excitement and potential there in Green Bay. I just see that it's almost an even trade there. Now, if you do match those up, then you have Breece Hall and Cousins for 2 firsts and Jaden Reed. I guess that about evens itself out. So I would say this trade's about dead even. I think both owners got what they wanted, and this is one of the great things in Dynasty that doesn't exist in Redraft, is that you can get win-win deals in Dynasty. Redraft, there's one winner at the end of the season, so you know whether you won or lost that deal. So the beauty of Dynasty shown through in this one. Next deal we've got is K. Ripple and Foss making another deal here. So again, this is a 10-teamer Superflex tight end premium. We've got Eckler and Romeo Doubs along with the 203 going to K. Ripple. And Foss in return got Deshaun Watson, Jameson Williams, who came out of nowhere tonight, and DTR. So we've got Eckler, Doubs, and the 203 for Watson, JMO, DTR. We're going to cancel DTR out of this deal. And Doubs and JMO, I think, are about even. All right. JMO showed a little bit tonight. I still don't love the analytics on the guy. He did absolutely nothing rookie season. Half of it he was hurt, but the second season then was marred by the suspension. And then when he finally did come in, I mean, his stats were just abysmal. And he's shown everything of what a face planner is at the wide receiver position. You don't show much in your first and second seasons. There isn't a whole lot of hope for that old, year 3 breakout, which has really just gone by the wayside considering how rookie receivers have been performing the last few years. So I'm not one to sit and wait for the third season. You don't do something in the first year, you're out of here. All right, Sky Moore, I got rid of in every league I had this past off season. I just don't want to wait anymore Rashad Bateman was impossible to dump on people. There's just, people keep losing hope, and the only way literally to get rid of you is by just throwing them into a deal. And sometimes having those kind of guys added into a deal makes the deal look worse. So, they're just really hard to get rid of. So if they're not cutting it, I follow the process and dump them after year one. There's a few examples this year. You want to get rid of those guys when they don't get at least 650 yards and a few touchdowns. If they're not shown their rookie season that they're a part of the offense, it's very unlikely to happen. All right. There aren't too many, Rod Smiths or JT Smiths out there anymore. And, it's hard to overcome a struggling rookie season at the wide receiver position. So this deal, if I cut it down and dissect it, it looks more like Eckler in the 203 for Deshaun Watson. Now, Watson, I did buy in on last offseason, and obviously he disappointed. But the fact is I was still able to be successful in some of those leagues, particularly because of the process and my roster construction. I know others that had Deshaun Watson. Hergot in the other league that I was speaking of, Dynastyland, he had Deshaun Watson. And he still was able to have the second best record in that league during the regular season. I would buy the dip on Watson. In other words, his contract is still there. Cleveland has no choice but to play the guy. He's only 28, 29 years old. He's not going anywhere. I mean, it's too early for him to just to just consider him in the Russell Wilson type area. All right, he could still flip things around. I don't know how it'd be to actually be in the huddle with the guy. It just seems kind of like an awkward situation. But I guess I do believe he's trying a little to overcome the off the field issues. So I don't know. I just need points out of him. That's all I'm looking for. All right. But I think both teams got what they wanted out of this. K. Reipel didn't need Deshaun Watson anymore on his roster, and he was just looking for a body at running back, and who knows with Austin Eckler. I don't know. I mean, the deal is fair, but personally, I would definitely have leaned more towards the Deshaun Watson side of things here. Moving on to the next deal, I've got the Fantasy Reaper trading with, once again, Foss. He's had quite the active offseason so far. Fantasy Reaper got Kirk Cousins in this case, and Foss took on the Texans' backfield in Devin Singletary and Dameon Pierce. Dameon Pierce and Singletary for Kirk Cousins. I don't like this one. This is a deal I would heavily be in favor of the Fantasy Reaper. I would take, even being just a 10-teamer, I would definitely just take the quarterback in this situation. I mean, Singletary and Dameon Pierce could both be playing second fiddle to a rookie running back this upcoming season. There was no reason to make this deal at this time of the year. We don't know where Cousins is gonna be. As I mentioned earlier, Atlanta's one option. I don't see how I would take on the Texans' backfield with that much risk and give up what will probably be another 2 or 3 seasons at least of Kirk Cousins. The guy still got it. He was having the best year of his career before that Achilles tendon injury. So I don't really care when he's coming back next offseason. I'll take him, especially if it's just for that. All right. Next deal I've got here is Steve S. dealing with Foss. Now, Foss did 5 deals in this one league, and this one wasn't bad. So this one was actually something to think about. So this one involves Steve S. getting Bijan Robinson and Foss grabbing the 104 and Jahan Dotson. Now, to put things into perspective, Foss also owns the 102 in this league. So he now has the 102 and 104. He did get rid of Bijan, but he also obtained Breece Hall in another deal. So he's still looking good at running back there with Breece. And now he's able to get the 104, which can packaging with the 102. If you factor both of those things into consideration, he can now help his quarterback room there and probably grab a nice receiver. So roster construction wise, I think that he's actually definitely helping his situation. I know that you look at it like, geez, Bijan for the 104 only, he was going for 3 firsts last year. Well, I would say the 104 is worth at least 2 firsts, and I don't see how Bijan, how Bijan has gained any value since last. He's definitely lost value, if anything. So I do believe this was a even swap, and I know that Steve S. really wanted a running back he could hang his hat on, and he was able to accomplish that with this deal. And I think that Foss got what he wanted in this one. He wanted an opportunity to land a nice wide receiver that he could build his room around and hope they stay, that he's productive for years now. And I do agree with him in that thought. He also got Jahan Dotson thrown in. I don't love Jahan Dotson. I'm stuck with him in a couple of leagues and nobody wants him. So good job getting rid of him, Steve S. in this case. Foss, though, he might be looking at a potential stack here because, like I said earlier, he's going to be probably drafting a quarterback with his 102. And we'll see how that goes. Jahan Dotson did score a lot of touchdowns in 2022. This past season somehow just didn't work with him and Howell. I don't know, but Howell, who knows how many games Howell's going to play next year, right? He could be a bridge quarterback. They could trade him before the draft. I don't know what they get for him now that they showed hesitancy with him. Hesitancy? That's hesitancy with him late in the season. So I think there's a lot of trust gone there. There's going to be a whole new regime there in Washington. They have no loyalty to Howell whatsoever. We'll see. Bieniemy might still be there, and I don't know whether the guy really loved Howell or not. But I do think that I'm 99% sure the Redskins, the Commanders, are going quarterback at the 102, who will be starting at some point next season. So we'll move on to another league of mine, the Mojo League. This one's a 12-team Superflex, half-point tight end premium, start 10. I do play in a lot of leagues that are that setup. I think that it's the best balance, I think it's also the most common format, 12-team Superflex tight end premium, whether it's a half point or 0.75 premium. Most of the leagues I play in are just half point premium for the tight ends. So that's where my leagues are at. You do you. If you like the 0.75 or even a full point premium for tight ends, power to you. And as long as you're enjoying the format of the league that you're in, stick with it. I just wanted to get back to this deal. There was one deal in the Mojo League, and that would be one that I made, and it was with FossBoss. This one, I was able to get Daniel Jones for the 309. So, again, here's a situation where FossBoss was trying to grab some draft capital because he didn't have much. And I think he got rid of Daniel Jones a little too cheap, but who knows? He probably could have gone to every team owner in that league and asked for their second and got denied. And he didn't want to waste the time. He just basically said, in his mind, first third I get, I'm going to jump on it. And I understand that. But that's why I also offered him the 309, because I figured I could probably get done. Daniel Jones still is under contract with the Giants. Who knows? I mean, the last year was just riddled with injuries. Now, if it would have been bad performance in general, or as a whole season of bad performance by Daniel Jones, then I could understand just completely not wanting anything to do with him. But Daniel Jones had a lot of injuries last year. They still didn't get him a receiver. They tried Darren Waller, but Darren Waller gets hurt just as much as Daniel Jones. So they're going to hopefully be drafting a receiver finally this year with their 105. Do they have the 105 or 106? Either way, it's the 106. Chargers have the 105. So with their sixth pick, the Giants could land a top receiver finally for Daniel Jones. I am not betting on it. Just